Hey, everybody, and welcome to the June edition of the Save the Bay podcast. As always, I am here with Adam Kovarsky.
Good morning, everyone.
For those of you who don't know, Adam is the aquarist and aquarium manager.
Yeah, sure, that sounds good.
Your title
Education specialist. Yeah, I wear a few hats. It's a lot of fun.
And I am Matt Vieira. I am the social media and marketing manager at Save the Bay. And let's get right into it. What is June's theme for the aquarium?
I know you've all been waiting. June's theme for the aquarium is Birds by the Bay.
Excellent. So what kind of bird activities do we have at the Bay Center?
Yes.
At the Exploration Center.
So this is just such a great time of year to talk about birds. They're getting really active in the area. We have ospreys nesting right down the road. There's piping plovers nesting, which is an endangered species. So cool. So we're going to be teaching about a lot of these seasonal migrants that come to the Bay and that sort of information. There's ones that stay here year-round, too, that we like to talk about. And for specific activities for families and students and kids in the aquarium, you could do bird watching scavenger hunts where you actually walk around the aquarium looking for hidden birds. Mm-hmm. You can do a craft, maybe design your own binoculars, something like that.
Very cool.
And learn how to identify different birds from their field markings, that kind of thing. And then even just within our aquarium, there's a ton of species in here that are actually really important to different birds, as weird as it sounds. So the Bay is just such a fertile place for life, for food to grow, that actually supplies animals all around the world. As these birds migrate through our area, they need to stop to the Bay to find fish and crabs and worms and things like that live right in our waters. So Narragansett Bay is a great thing right in our backyard, but it actually can affect the entire world.
It's really cool. And so I maybe I'm missing it, but you don't have any birds in the exploration.
Okay, you're absolutely right. No birds in here.
But I would imagine that right out on Easton's Beach, which is where we're located, right on the beach,
yes,
you'd be able to see a lot of wildlife out there.
Exactly. Last year, we've seen bald eagles out here eating fish on the beach.
Wow.
And this is one of the busiest beaches in Rhode Island, so the fact that they're comfortable and happy enough to do that, we have ospreys that are fishing right across the street in the freshwater bodies. There's a lot of great stuff here. So when we do get a good opportunity and maybe not too busy on the beach, we'll be taking beach walk explorations, going out there. We'll be bringing out some binoculars, stuff like that, for anyone who can when we have time, that kind of thing.
Very, very cool. Now, I remember in the past when I was doing some projects here with you, they had some roped off areas on beaches for, I believe it was for the plover. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's one thing that happens a lot. So one area we actually were just working on last week, and you were actually with us there, Maddie, as well.
Yes.
At Satchowest Point, right kind of near Third Beach, there's a restoration project that we're working on. So our high school kids, they're growing grasses, they're planting them in the marsh down there, creating good migrating habitat for birds. But even during that time, Fish and Wildlife noticed that some plovers were nesting down there. Anytime we see a nest, we like to make good note of it, and then Fish and Wildlife usually is the ones responsible to go out and create these exclosures. So they basically build fencing around these nests for two things. One, to keep people from stepping on it, yes, right? But then the other reason, too, is to keep out wildlife, right? Because little eggs right on the beach, that's a great meal for a raccoon, a
yes,
dog, a coyote, or any kind of small mammal, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So I think it's very important for people to realize that when you see this, it's important to stay away. But that's also something great about Easton's Beach is it shows the animals are right out here, right out front.
Yeah.
Starting this weekend, we're recording this podcast right at the end of May. But when you hear this podcast, it will already be happening. The Exploration Center and Aquarium is open daily.
Every day, all summer, 10 to 4.
That's fantastic. So if you're in Newport, if you're not in Newport, plan to come down for the day and check out Easton's Beach and check out the Save the Bay Exploration Center and Aquarium. We have these beautiful new big signs. You can't miss us.
That's right.
175 Memorial Boulevard. We're right on the beach. Come down for some. What is the theme?
Mm-hmm. Birds by the Bay for this month.
Birds by the Bay.
And this is such a great day-long trip that you guys can take. So you come down here, you can spend time on the beach. There's a great snack shack upstairs that has great food up there. There's a carousel that'll be opening pretty soon, Memorial Day weekend upstairs as well here at the aquarium. You could walk right to the Cliff Walk from here. You could walk to other restaurants and bars and things like that down the road. There's just a lot of great stuff to do right here within walking distance.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people don't realize it. Just like they get stuck in downtown Newport, and they don't realize that right over the hill at Easton's Beach is this great area, like this great beach and this great aquarium. Yeah, so, exactly. Next on the podcast, I went out with Dave Prescott, our CoastKeeper. We did some water quality testing, and I was able to get some interviews with him. So we're going to go to that right now. Hope you all enjoy it. Good?
We matched today and everything.
I know. This is
we planned all
we
this
called
out,
each other beforehand. Hi, everybody. I am here with Dave Prescott, the South County CoastKeeper. And, Dave, what are we doing out here, and where are we right now?
Right now we are we're at Viking Marina, right on the beautiful Pawcatuck River estuary. Today kicks off our 2016 water quality testing on the lower Pawcatuck River in Little Narragansett Bay. We'll be out for about 4 to 5 hours. We test 6 different sites along the river and the bay, and this is actually our 9th year of testing here.
Great. So we're going to be heading out right this way, and where are we going to be going out over there?
So as we head down the river, we'll get to the mouth, and we'll get into Little Narragansett Bay. We'll head over by Barn Island in Stonington, and also Sandy Point. It's a great little area down there, little island down there, and then over to Watch Hill, and then back up the river. And
why does this water quality, why is it important?
Going out and doing water quality testing is so important because it gives us a much better sense of how healthy this ecosystem is. We want to know, A, is it safe for us to be in the water? B, is it safe for animals to survive there? Is there enough oxygen? Is there enough food? Is there all these different parameters that we look at and we test for?
All right, great. Let's get out there.
All right, sounds good.
All right, Dave, we're out on the water. Where are we right now?
Right now, we are off beautiful Sandy Point here in Little Narragansett Bay. This is our second location where we're going to be doing our water quality testing.
Awesome. And there's 6 total.
6 total sites. There's 3 sites in Little Narragansett Bay, and then 3 sites in the Pawcatuck River estuary.
Awesome. And so, what type of things are we testing for? I know we're going to go into detail on the exact processes, but what are the overview of what we're going to be testing?
So at each site, we test for several different parameters. We do dissolved oxygen, we do temperature, we do salinity, we do turbidity, or how far through the water column you can actually see, water clarity. We'll be testing for bacteria, and also nutrients and chlorophyll.
All right, let's get to it. Great. All right, Dave. So what do we have here?
Right here we have, this is actually a Secchi disc, and we are using this to measure how far through the water column we can actually see. Here, just looking over the side, you can see it's very shallow, so we can actually see to the bottom. At some of the other sites that are deeper, we'll actually be lowering this a lot further, and we won't be probably seeing to the bottom. The clarity in the water will change over the season depending upon what's actually in the water. So when we have plankton blooms, that seems to color the water. Like you'll get like a brown tinge and whatnot and not be able to see as far down the water column. But what we do with this is all measured, as you can see, it's all measured in meters here. We'll be lowering this over the side into the water and measuring it, putting it down as far as we possibly can until we can't see it anymore. Once we can't see it, we stop, we bring it back up, and then we actually measure the depth at which we're at. Now, in this case, because the water is so clear, it's early in the season right now, and we're actually in very shallow water. We're only in about 4.5, 5 feet deep right now. What I'm doing just right now is actually just measuring how deep down we are.
So as the season goes on, the clarity will change.
Clarity will change from so many different things, from not only the plankton in there, from storms. So if we get a lot of water that's rushing off the watershed from the downtown sections of Westerly, Pawcatuck, or further up the watershed, that'll actually change the clarity throughout this entire area.
Great. All right.
As you can see, now that the fog is starting to clear, we can really start to see Little Narragansett Bay. Here we are off of Sandy Point. Just beyond Sandy Point, way in the distance there, is actually Fisher Island, which is part of New York. And then behind it, over to the side over here, you can start seeing parts of Connecticut. You can see definitely Mystic and Stonington Borough, all the way up to Stonington and around. Now we can get a really good view of Little Narragansett Bay. It's really unique. The fact is that there's literally a location right offshore of Little Narragansett Bay where basically New York, Connecticut, and Rhode Island all come together. Cool.
All right, Dave, what's next?
Next up is we have these 2 sample bottles, and we are actually going to be taking a water sample that we will be testing later on for chlorophyll. So chlorophyll is basically any of the plants, the green pigment you find in the plants. So it's a presence of plants in there. So we're taking a measurement for that right now. We're taking a sample for that right now.
All right, great. And you have this is a pretty fancy rig right here.
Pretty fancy.
Is there a name for this rig?
It's a Prescott sampler. I did not name it, all right? But it's a Prescott sampler that we use so that we can actually get a good sample here in the water.
Cool, let's do it.
One rinse.
Is the two different samples for redundancy?
Yeah, basically. So out of each of these samples, we will get four. We'll filter out. We'll take 4 filter samples. So this will be 2 from here, 2 from here, and then 2 from here as well. Yep.
Great. All right. So what's up next?
So next up, we're going to take 2 samples. One is going to be for nutrients. The second one is for bacteria. The bacteria one is really important, especially from a human health perspective. We can get very sick from too much bacteria in the water, and that can be from lots of different sources. From the wildlife you see around us here, this is off of Sandy Point, you have a lot of birds. They do a lot of pooping. That can make you sick sometimes. In the river, we also have a lot of swans and other geese and whatnot. Also from septic systems and wastewater treatment facilities. That sometimes you get bacteria levels if the systems are not properly functioning. You can get bacteria from that, as well as from our own pets. Those of us who have dogs and don't take care of them, that can be an issue because all of that will run off the land and make its way down to the water and make you sick. Same thing is true with nutrients. You know, we've always been taught that nutrients are a good thing for us, but too much of a good thing is a bad thing, and that's definitely clearly the case here in Little Narragansett Bay. In the river, we find very high levels of nutrients coming from lots of places in the watershed, from things like fertilizers and road runoff and whatnot. But the problem is down here in Little Narragansett Bay, that those nutrient levels aren't that high, but the reason is because they're really built up in these really thick mats of algae, thick mats of macroalgae. It's actually one certain type of species down here called Cladophora, and it's not a good thing. In the case in here in Little Narragansett Bay, we basically have really inches to feet thick of this stuff, and that shows that too many nutrients are getting into the system.
And I see that this bottle is a little different from the other bottles, the sample containers that we've been using. Yep. It's sterile on the inside, yep. So there's no other bacteria that can interfere with.
Yeah, we want to be very careful when we're actually sampling so that we don't cross-contaminate it. We have bacteria on our bodies. On if you put it down, if you put the cap down wrong on one of these seats, there could be bacteria there. We want really a really good sample of what's coming from the water, not from anywhere else.
And so, how do we get these samples? Is this just a?
Yeah, we take the top off very carefully, obviously, and not to touch anything, and then we take a little scoop here in the water. We pour a little bit off the top, we cap it, we put it on ice, and then we will actually be sending it to URI. So all the samples that we're taking today, the chlorophyll, the bacteria, and the nutrients go over to URI's Watershed Watch program. We have been partnering with them for the past, this is actually our 9th year with them. They do a great job over there. There's a lot of other great local organizations that use URI's Watershed Watch program, and we always appreciate all their help. So.
All right, Dave, so what do we have here, and what is this testing for?
All right, this is our water quality sampler. What we're actually going to be doing with this is we're going to be lowering this down to 1 meter in depth in the water and actually getting the water specifically from the area, because we want to know what the content of oxygen is at that level. So what we do is we open it up. We place our sample bottle right inside. Cover back on. Let me sit down here. Cap it. Put a little plug in there. Not too hard, not too soft. Not too hard, not too soft, yeah. Lower it actually over the side. Goes down to the 1 meter of depth. Once it's down at that level, what we're going to do is give it a little tug. And what that does is that opens up that plug and allows the water to fill in at that level. So we know that we're actually sampling at that level there. And we can see the water, the bubbles starting to come up. We're going to leave that for a couple minutes as that bottle fills up, and then we'll come back on here and actually process that.
All right, so we're ready to pull it up?
We are. Yep. Pull it up right now. What you'll notice is that the plug is no longer attached. That's good. You'll notice that the bottle is full of water. That's also good. So what we do is we put this on the edge here. We take it apart. We take our sample out. And you can see it's full at the top there. And then what we'll do is we'll go through the process of actually fixing the sample so to make sure that no other oxygen can get in there, and then going back and actually titrating and getting the results of how much oxygen is in this bottle when we get back to the lab. What we're also going to do, so this right here is called a refractometer, and the purpose of a refractometer is to help us get the salinity for the water that we're testing out of. So this little
what is salinity?
Excellent, thank you for asking. So salinity is how much salt is in the water. Here in an estuary, which is a mixture of fresh and salt water, our numbers are somewhere in the range of 18 to 25, 30 parts per thousand. So what does that mean? The ocean has 35 parts per thousand. Freshwater has 0 parts per thousand 35 parts per thousand of salt. That's the salinity of the ocean. The freshwater has 0. There's no salt in there. Again, it's going to be a mixture, so we're going to be somewhere in the middle there. The easiest way to think about how much salt that truly is think about if you had 1,000 buckets of water, how many of those buckets would be pure salt and the rest would be water. So what we'll do is we don't have our pipette, but we'll actually use this right here and put a couple sample drops on top. We'll shut the lid, and then we'll actually look through the little eyepiece here, and that'll give us a measurement of how much salt's in here. So let me just take a look. So here, the salinity at this location, which is very close to the ocean, is 33 parts per thousand.
All right, Dave, we're back at the dock.
Yes, we
Just
are.
hit our 6 spots for water quality testing. So you've been doing this for the past 7 years.
This is actually the 9th year.
This is the 9th year?
Yeah, 9th year.
Okay.
9th year of testing, yep.
What changes have you seen over the past 9 years, and why is it important for us to keep water quality testing, even though you might get back some good results or favorable results?
Yep. Well, we've seen changes. We definitely have, and unfortunately, the changes that in the results that we've gotten haven't changed all that much. Meaning that things they're pretty stagnant. They're not getting better or worse. The bacteria numbers, which I know we talked about before, are definitely a huge concern. I mean, obviously, this resource behind us here, we would love to see it open for eventually potentially someday, or parts of it to go swimming in and to potentially shellfish in the future. But until we can deal with those bacteria numbers, that's an issue. Same thing's true with dissolved oxygen. Dissolved oxygen, as we talked about before, is so important for the animals that live here. And like a season like last year, we actually had a lot of low dissolved oxygen readings, and that's troublesome, specifically for the animals that live here. Nutrients, same kind of thing. The nutrient levels are about the same. The concern we have, again, has to do everything with the fact that we're seeing this big buildup of algae in Little Narragansett Bay, which is making it really inhospitable for certain species of animals to live there. So really, the long-term look at this is really the way we need to look at it. Year after year, day after day, week after week can change so much. As we know in Rhode Island, New England, the weather changes basically on a dime, and that can really affect the water quality. So even though some years the data may be a lot better, the year after that can go right back downhill again. So it's really important to get a long-term data set so we can look at trends over time. And there's a lot of other organizations around here who have these great long-term data sets, and we're hoping to get the data sets down here up in years too as well.
That's great. Well, thanks for taking us out, Dave.
Anytime.
Yeah, and we'll go back to the EC. Okay, everybody, we're back at the aquarium with Adam. One last thing before you go. We don't want you to forget about our Feeding Frenzy program, which Adam,
yes, yep.
Explain?
So it's 5 to 6 p.m. every third Thursday of the month, and you know what? So far, all of them have been completely sold out, which is awesome. So you can register online. So definitely, if you want to do one, make sure you register nice and early so you actually get a spot and it doesn't sell out before you can. Pretty much with this program, you come to the aquarium, you actually get to feed almost all the animals in here. It's when we're not open to the public, so you get a private tour tour from one of our specialized aquarists.
Yeah, and if you want to see previews of what that might look like, we have some feeding videos on our YouTube pages,
nice.
our Facebook videos, which I saw that video of the mantis shrimp feeding.
Killer,
which
right?
was fantastic.
Yeah,
So fantastic.
yeah.
I love that. So this month, it's the third Thursday of every month. This month it happens to be the 16th, 5 to 6. SaveBay.org/aquarium if you want to get a ticket. Like Adam said, every one of the programs we've had so far has sold out. So get there early and get your registration for Feeding Frenzy. So until next time, you can find us on Twitter, Save the Bay RI. You can find us on Instagram, Save the Bay RI. You can find us on SoundCloud, Save the Bay RI. That is where this audio version of the podcast lives, and exclusively now on iTunes as well.
Right.
You've heard it here first. We are on iTunes now, so head over to iTunes and subscribe to us. We're also on YouTube, Save the Bay RI. And until next time, we will talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, Adam.